Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Dhena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Hare Krishna. So we're gathered today to hear from Krishna. Because as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Maya sakta manaparta yogam yunjan banashaya asamshayam samagramam yata gyasasi tashtrinu. If you just hear from me, then you'll know everything. You'll learn everything. There's a scientific method through which we can investigate this world. Microscopes, picking it apart with various technological tools, using our senses. But our perception is limited. If you close your eyes, you can't even see the back of your eyelids, nor can we see what's going on past that wall and so forth. But through sound vibration, we can get information from other places. For instance, if someone from Chicago calls us right now and tells us what it's like there along the lake, what the temperature is, how people are moving about, we can get a clear idea from having a reliable bystander who's looking and seeing. He can give us that information. And in gathering information, how do we know something, and where do we get that information? The acharyas, especially Jiva Goswami in his Tattva Sandarbha, speaks about the ways in which we get information from the spiritual world through the infallible source of the Shastra, the scripture. And this is called Shruti Praman, hearing from reliable sources. And there has to be a point at which one accepts a reliable source for knowledge, because in any investigation you have to have some point to start from, something that's given. For instance, in geometry, you have a given before you can solve a problem. And the given in the process of spiritual advancement is that there is a divine source who is omniscient and omnipotent, which means if he so desires, he can make himself known to those who have limited knowledge. He, according to the Bhagavad Gita and Krishna himself, Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjuna bhavishani chabhutani mamtu veda nakashchana. Krishna knows everyone and he knows everything. And he's also all-powerful. So if he decides to make himself known, then it's not an issue for him. He can do that. Nayamatma prapachanena labhyo na medaya na bahuna shutena mami vaisha vinute tena labhyas tashaisha eva ravinute tanum swam. The Shastra says that God cannot be known by adjourning many scientific conferences, by one who's very, very intelligent, bahuna shutena, namedhaya, but he reveals himself to those he chooses. And bhakti process is a way of positioning oneself humbly and putting oneself in the position of a receiver, one who can receive knowledge from the Supreme. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that those who have bhakti, those who have devotion, are the ones to whom he reveals knowledge. Where does he say that? Once in the 10th chapter, or twice. In the 10th chapter, Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam pachatam priti purvakam danami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. To those who worship me with love, I give the intelligence by which they can come to me. And then, Tesham ivanukam partam ahama jnana jamtamaha nashem yat bhavasto jnana dipena bhashvata. He says, for those who are devoted, I reveal knowledge from within their heart. And he compares it to lighting up a lamp. shining lamp of knowledge. Jnana dipena bhashvata. I shine that light within their heart. So it is possible to know who Krishna is through the proper channel. And the acharyas show us that the proper channel is through bhakti, worshiping Krishna and submissively hearing. The line of great acharyas through which we're getting this information are known as a line of submissive hearers. They've heard submissively from their spiritual preceptors, and by that they've perfected themselves in life, and they've passed that down to others. And in this way, as Krishna says in the Gita, evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo vidu, that the knowledge, parampara means one after another, it's passed down. And the conditions have to be correct. That is, the student has to be sincere and submissive, and the teacher has to be lined up with Krishna's teachings. And the Shastra says, Tasmat gurum prapadyeta jignasu shreya uttamam shabde parichanishnatam brahman yupashamashrayam. The qualification of a person who's transmitting this knowledge is that he or she has fully imbibed this sound vibration by living a life that allows them to take in that sound vibration. And through that, they've actually perfected themselves. Perfect means that they're perfectly attentive to their eternal duty, which is to serve God at every moment and to think of Him. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mami vaishyas yukvaivam atmanama parayanaha. He advises Arjuna to just think of him. And this takes good association, it takes purification, it takes practice. And those who are able to do this also, they're considered to be perfect in that they're constantly thinking of Krishna and engaging their activities for Krishna. Even while living in a material body, these people are liberated. Iha yasya harer dasye karmana manasa gira nikila apyavastastu jivan muktasu uchite. This verse comes in the gain a little higher, or is it a little higher than usual? Maybe it lowers something. Even while living in this body, those who are engaged with body, mind, and words in serving Krishna are liberated. They're not connected to the body in the same way that others are. They are jivan mukta. Even though living in a material body, they are liberated souls. Krishna also confirms in the Gita, he gives more details about how this type of person lives his or her life. Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tatvavit pashyan shinvan sprisan jigran ashnan gachan swapan swasan palapanjit vishwanan grinan unmishan nimishan api indriyan indriyarteshu vartanta iti tarayan. That a person in the divine consciousness never thinks that I'm doing something, but observes that the senses are acting and going through motions, but that person sees I'm separate from them. I'm not connected to the biomechanical body. I'm a different category. I'm the observer, and I'm residing within this body temporarily because of my past karma that's carried me through to this position. And therefore, the person then uses the senses. Kaina manasa budhya kevaler indriyarapi indriyan Kaina manasa budhya kevaler indriyarapi kurvanti. Look it up. Kaina manasa budhya kevaler indriyarapi. This means Kaina manasa budhya. The advanced sages, they use everything. The body, the mind, the intelligence. They use it all, they interact with the world, but only for the purpose of purification. So this is a higher stage of realization that a person comes to by hearing and chanting. Just look it up in the Gita. Kayena manasa bhujya kevalerindriyarapi. Chapter 5. Thank you. This is 5:11. Kayena manasa bhujya kevalerindriyarapi yogina karma kurvanti sangam tyaktva mashudhaye. Means the yogis, abandoning attachment, act with the body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses, only for the purpose of purification. And here's Prabhupada's purport. When one acts in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the senses of Krishna, any action, whether of the body, mind, intelligence, or even the senses, is purified of material contamination. There are no material reactions resulting from the activities of a Krishna conscious person. Therefore, purified activities, which are generally called sat achar, can be easily performed by acting in Krishna consciousness. In Rupa Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu describes as follows: Iha yasya harer dasye karmana manasa gira nikila yasya bastastu jivan muktas uchite. A person acting in Krishna consciousness, or in other words, in the service of Krishna with his body, mind, intelligence, and words, is a liberated person even within the material world, although he may be engaged in many so-called material activities. He has no false ego, for he does not believe that he is this material body, or that he possesses the body. He knows that he is not this body, and that this body does not belong to him. He himself belongs to Krishna, and the body too belongs to Krishna. When he applies everything produced of the body, mind, intelligence, words, life, wealth, etc. What things are those? He engages the body, mind, intelligence, words, life, and wealth. How do you engage your body in Krishna service? One thing is you can worship Tulsi, because it's recommended in the Shastra that you attend to Tulsi every day. Devotees keep Tulsi at their house because when you have a Tulsi plant, you have to take care of her. You have to pick the manjaris, the flowers that come out. You have to make sure she's watered and so forth. And it's very auspicious taking care of Tulsi Devi. It's part of one of the tenets of bhakti, to take care of Tulsi. What's another way to engage your body in Krishna service? Cleaning the temple. Yeah, just by when you scrub pots, the shinier they become, the shinier your heart becomes. And if you can see yourself in the pot, that's a good sign. What other way?
Serving the spiritual master and devotees.
Serving the spiritual master and devotees in what way?
Menial services.
What's menial service mean?
Menial services like maybe serving.
Why don't you use a microphone?
Like assisting them in maybe serving prasadam, or if like in yatra you can take them whenever.
Serving prasadam, that's a nice thing to do. What else?
Like yatra, when we go, we can assist them so that if they need some help.
When you go on a yatra, like Shivananda Sain used to go and make sure the devotees all had residences and that they were fed and things like that. And even one time, when he was a little late getting back, Nityananda Prabhu kicked him because he said, "I'm so hungry and you didn't come back fast enough." So for the body, and then how to serve Krishna with the mind. Think of what?
Think of new ideas, new ways of doing things.
Like what?
Like broadcasting, Ramananda.
Okay, so Ramananda Saka Prabhu was always thinking about different ways to broadcast, they're saying. Right? How many ways do you have of broadcasting these classes? What? He'll give you in a minute. There's so many he can't even count them on his hands. So that's thinking about how to expand Krishna consciousness? Yeah?
I want to say that from today onwards, we are also broadcasting on Facebook of ISV. And
Hare
those
Krishna
who,
to everybody watching on Facebook today.
and those who
What will
are
happen if I look at this while we're doing something might happen. Hare Krishna. Oh my goodness. It's on Facebook.
yeah, and those who are in Facebook, they can type in their comments in the window that is next to the broadcast. In the Facebook itself, they can type in their comments. They don't need to go through the trouble of typing through WhatsApp or texting.
Thank you. Very good. So undoubtedly, Ramananda Saka used his mind to figure out how to do that. And that's an instance of using one's mind in Krishna service to expand the Sankirtan movement. What about intelligence? How would you use intelligence? What? Organizing a yatra. Yeah, you think about how to organize things for Krishna. How about your words? Preaching and reciting. Reciting what? So tell us a Bhagavatam verse. Can you think of one?
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaivam narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet.
Haribo. Very good. So you can use your words for Krishna, in Krishna's service. How about your life? How to use your life? Maguna, how to use your life? You're smiling. I think you got an answer. Better give her the microphone. They're back in the bleachers.
Thank you. Well, you can use your life, lifelong service.
Lifelong service.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your whole life you can use in Krishna's service. And how about your wealth? You can give a donation. Yeah, you can put your wealth, that's a very practical thing. Just the wealth that you think you have, you can take it and you can give it to Krishna, and then you really have something.
Bharat, there was a comment on Facebook a little
A comment on Facebook. Okay, let's hear it.
So this is talking about using multiple body parts for the service of Krishna.
Yes.
Is Jadu Thakur Das. He's saying that I can listen to Krishna Katha while cooking for Krishna.
You can listen to Krishna Katha while cooking for Krishna. Yeah, and there's a recount of Maharaj Ambarish, who engaged all of his body, mind, words, everything all at once, cleaning Krishna's temple and speaking about Krishna. So very much, there's a lot of practical evidence how this can be done. Prabhupada continues, whatever he may have within his possession to Krishna's service, when he applies everything produced of the body, mind, intelligence, words, life, wealth, etc., whatever he may have within his possession to Krishna's service, he is at once dovetailed with Krishna. Look up the word dovetailed. He is one with Krishna and is devoid of the false ego that leads one to believe that he is the body, etc. I'll read that again. He is one with Krishna and is devoid of the false ego that leads one to believe that he is the body, etc. This is the perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. Ooh, that's pretty good. So this verse confirms that we can actively engage in use all our senses for the purpose of purification. And it's important what one's intention is, because when we have the intention of serving Krishna, then we engage our senses. The activity is non-reactive. Whereas engaging the same activity, but with the intention of pleasing ourselves, then there's a reaction because I'm connecting myself to the result of the activity. So part of this giving one's life means giving one's intention to serve Krishna rather than oneself. And this is non-reactive work. So it's very practical. Now we'll take some reflections. Anything that you heard so far from the purport of the discussion that's stuck in your mind. Magun is handing the microphone to Satyadev Prabhu.
She's handing it to herself. I like the verse you quoted from chapter 5, the Divine Consciousness. How even though we're in the body, we maintain the awareness that we're the watcher of the mind and the body while the body is eating or sleeping or doing this or doing that. One in the Divine Consciousness doesn't forget that his life is coming from Krishna and everything is actually being done by his will, by his energies. Ijo.
Ijo desu ka? One of the ways to, thank you very much, one of the ways to remember that is to continually chant Hare Krishna. Because the mind, as Krishna says in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, has constant input. Already, because of the information I've taken in from the external environment, there are a variety of impressions that are wound up on my mind, as Prabhupada describes, like a spool. You know what a spool is? S-P-O-O-L, spool? It's like you wind something up, like if you have some string, you can wind it up on a spool. So these impressions are wound up in the mind like that, and we're also taking in other kinds of stimuli from the environment constantly. And all those are there naturally. And in the second chapter of the Gita, Krishna compares, he gives this analogy that the ocean is steady and still, but there are millions of rivers flowing into it. And even though they're cascading down from the mountains and rushing into the ocean doesn't change. It remains still. So the verse goes, Apuryamanam achala pratishtam samudramapa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sa shantamapnoti nakamakami. That he says what I just said. And then in a similar way, he says, a person who has become stita prajna, or fixed in consciousness, although having these impressions within the mind constantly entering and also circulating from previous inputs, he doesn't, as Satyadev Prabhu was saying, or she doesn't, identify with them. And therefore, that person isn't disturbed by them. And let's read that verse. Apuryamanam achala pratishtam samudramapa pravishanti yadvat. It's 272? 270. Who agrees that we should read the verse? If anybody on Facebook thinks that we should read the verse, text in that you think write in the box you think we should read this verse. Okay, this is 270. I'll say, please repeat. Apuryamanam achala prachishtam samudramapa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sa shantam apnoti nakamakami. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled, but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. Purport. Although the vast ocean is always filled with water, it is always, especially during the rainy season, being filled with much more water. But the ocean remains the same, steady. It is not agitated, nor does it cross beyond the limit of its brink. That is also true of a person fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one has the material body, the demands of the body for sense gratification will continue. The devotee, however, is not disturbed by such desires because of his fullness. A Krishna-conscious man is not in need of anything because the Lord fulfills all his material necessities. Therefore, he is like the ocean, always full in himself. Desires may come to him like the waters of the rivers that flow into the ocean, but he is steady in his activities, and he is not even slightly disturbed by desires for sense gratification. That is the proof of a Krishna-conscious man, one who has lost all inclinations for material sense gratification, although the desires are present. I repeat, although the desires are present. This is not pausing for dramatic effect. I just lost my place. Although the desires. Proof of the Krishna conscious man. Because he remains satisfied in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he can remain steady like the ocean and therefore enjoy full peace. Others, however, who want to fulfill desires even up to the limit of liberation, what to speak of material success, never attain peace. This goes to the intention, and there are those who, although performing these spiritual purificatory activities, are thinking, I want to become liberated, I want to merge into God, become one with God, and so forth. And therefore, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kaviraj Goswami says that Krishna Bhakti Nishkam Ataiva Shanta, Bhukti Mukti Siddhikami Sakali Ashanta. That if you want anything, even subtly, you're asking for something for yourself in the form of liberation, that you can't be peaceful, as being described here. If you give up all desires for your own personal sense gratification, and your only desire is to serve Krishna's senses, then you can be peaceful. Krishna Bhakta Nishkam. Bhakta is actually Nishkam because his desires are directed at fulfilling Krishna's desires. Ataiva Shanta. Therefore, Ataeva means therefore he is peaceful. Bhukti means material enjoyment. That just drives you crazy because no matter what kind of material enjoyment you get, there's a rebounder effect. You get some material enjoyment and then you suffer from it, but then the impulse keeps coming back to you, and then at a certain point there's a phenomena that goes on in the material realm of bhukti, which is you get bhoga and then tyaga. You get the enjoyment, and then after a while you want to give it up. And after you give it up for some time and you feel like, oh, I'm purified, now I want some sense gratification. And you keep bouncing back and forth. Well, you don't, but one does. Back and forth between bhoga and tyaga. And bhukti, mukti, and mukti means that one desires liberation for oneself. That means, let me get free from this bhoga, tyaga, and the agitation from the material world. But that's a kind of subtle desire also that doesn't hold eternally, as is mentioned in the Shastra, Yeni Ravindaksha Vimuktamaninas Toyasta Bhavad Avashudha Buddhaya Aruya Krishna Paramparam Tata Patantya To Nadrita Yushmanangraya. Those who don't achieve this position of desiring to serve the lotus-eyed Krishna, but they want liberation for themselves, and they just try to extricate themselves from the waves of the material existence, will eventually fall down from that position. Sometimes it's compared to somebody who goes on strike from work. Did you ever feel like going on strike? If you had a strong enough union and there would be no repercussions? Well, once you're on strike, and we've seen strikes before, they're not as popular nowadays, so the corporations are much stronger and people don't get that much striking time in. But I used to see it a lot in the 70s, 80s, even at the airport when I was doing book distribution there. Sometimes there would be a pilot strike, and they'd go outside with their signs, and we say, we don't like the conditions. Give us better conditions. We're not working now. So liberation, it's like, I don't like the material world, so I'm on strike. But sooner or later, you got to go back to work. So patantyada, again you come back to this realm. So bhukti, mukti, siddhi, and then the siddhis, become enamored of the subtle energies of the universe, which can be very compelling because those yogis learn how to concentrate their minds and all their attention on certain energy flows within the universe. And they start to take on the same qualities of those energies, and they can do miraculous things, which can really enamor one and take one in, and you start thinking, I'm very powerful. But all of these things are considered to be agitations that make one that agitate the mind and give no peace. But the bhakta is simply dedicated to Krishna's desires. Krishna bhakta nishkama taiva shanta. Therefore, he's peaceful. Conclusion is, be a bhakta. Be a bhakta. Continuing, the fruit of workers, the salvationists, and also the yogis who are after mystic powers are all unhappy because of unfulfilled desires. Unhappy because of what? Unfulfilled desires. But the person in Krishna consciousness is happy in the service of the Lord as he has no desires to be fulfilled. In fact, he does not even desire liberation from the so-called material bondage. The devotees of Krishna have no material desires, and therefore they are in perfect peace. You notice, actually in the Bhagavatam it says that the devotees can serve anywhere. They don't mind the external environment. They are Narayana parak sarve nakutaschana bhibyati swarga pavarga narakeshu apitulyarta darshinaha. They're equal whether they're in heaven or hell as long as they're engaged in service. That's what their interest is, how they can be constantly engaged in service. Now we'll really take some feedback. Anything that you heard so far that's stuck in your mind? Yes, Dhiraj.
I really like the point of the kram you explained, Bhog and Tyag, and then Siddhi also.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for elaborating on that.
When we talk about Bhoga Tyag, it's so familiar that everyone always smiles. It doesn't matter what the audience is, but if you mention Bhog and Tyag and then explain what it means, that you have material enjoyment as much as you like, and then I don't like it anymore. I'm giving it up again. And back and forth it goes. Everyone always smiles because, yes, that's what we're used to in the material world, and it's always elusive, the happiness in the material world. But actually, how to find the real thing? Prabhupada once gave the example of a mirage in the desert, and Prahlad Maharaj similarly. It's common because it's so relatable. Mirage means you're in the desert, you see water, but it's not actually water. It's just the reflection of the heat waves, and it looks like water. And he said that the materialist is one who chases after it, thinking that he'll get water. But then he drops dead trying. Then the jnani is one who sees the water, figures out it's not really water, so he sits down and doesn't chase it anymore. But you still didn't get any water. But the bhakta figures out, this is a reflection of water, so there must be real water somewhere else. And then learns the process of getting the real water. And that's bhakti. You can actually quench your thirst. As mentioned in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, that in the material world, we have desert-like tongues. Because the topics here are so dry, they're not connected to Krishna. And the devotees praying, please let the cooling waters of the Sankirtan, the spiritual sound vibration, come flowing across my tongue and quench this thirst that's dried up my tongue and my life. Somebody else had a... Yes, Aditya.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, you quoted the verse Narayana Parasarve from the Bhagavatam, and that a devotee does not care where he serves. So how does one actually have this attitude? Because when we read the statement, he does not even desire liberation from so-called material bondage. Because first of all, the material nature is so much. It's so much. It's very tough. So if initial desire is to get rid of all material. So how does the devotee have this consciousness that of Narayana Parasarva, be wherever one is, and then just be serving Krishna? So how does one get to that point?
Well, you have to have a clear goal to fix your mind on, that you're trying to please Krishna, your spiritual master. And just the example, when Prabhupada came to America, his spiritual master told him, go preach Krishna consciousness in the West. And he came to Butler, Pennsylvania, and he looked over the landscape, he read in the papers what's going on where, and then he headed down to Dr. Mishra's ashram. And he mentioned later that in some of the places where he stayed, they were keeping unmentionable things in the refrigerator. And he tolerated it because he had a mission, he had a goal. So when he went to these places, he didn't become repulsed. It's hellish for a devotee to go in a place where there's cat food in the refrigerator or something like that. And you also have to keep your boga there. There's no other choice. That's the choices you were given. You know, when you do traveling Sankirtan or anything like that, devotees tend to end up in all kinds of places. But they simply, they know what their goal and their mission is, so they take it joyfully. This is what Krishna has provided for me. And then Prabhupada went to the Bowery. And because he was fixed on the mission and the goal, and he was finding his way forward with Krishna's assistance, that he joyfully accepted all these places. And then later on in New York City, he had a large building. And that was think how triumphant Prabhupada was to come into New York after he had been there with no money and living in the Bowery. And then now suddenly, a few years later, there's a large building there. But he was equally enthusiastic in both circumstances because his goal was clear, to serve the mission of his spiritual master. If you lock yourself onto that and make that your priority, then you do what you have to do. You adapt to the environment for the sake of fulfilling the order. And if you don't have that, Krishna says, Vyavasayatmika buddhir eke hakunana bahushaka hyanantascha buddhayo vyavasainam. Your mind becomes many branched. Bahushaka, many branches. Hyananta, it's unlimited branches. And vyavasainam, and you become avayavasayina means that you can't fix your mind on any one thing or place. And even if you get nice places to stay, you'll still think, that's not good enough. Or it's uncomfortable. Or I wish, boy, wasn't it nicer when we lived in that log cabin, now we live in this big old palace. It's so dry and impersonal. You can't get comfortable in the material world. Bahushaka yanantascha. No matter you're in heaven or in hell, you're still not comfortable. And once you have something that's desirable in the material world, the thought that's concomitant with that is, I'm going to lose this. And therefore, Krishna says again, those kinds of activities that are related to my own sense gratification never satisfy. Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate adyanta vanta konteya nateshu ramate buddha. Because they have a beginning and an end, the wise person is like, I'm not interested in that. Let me just engage whatever I get in Krishna's service. And whatever situation the person's in, he or she is satisfied. Another reflection. Yes? A question? Wow, these are heavy. Okay, go ahead.
So throughout Bhagavad Gita, like Krishna keeps saying, Arjuna, come back to me, come back to me. Then so when we read all that, how can we not desire liberation?
Well, it's what we're talking about is the difference between desiring liberation for oneself to get relief from the material world and the liberation that's naturally there when one engages in serving Krishna. Serving Krishna, as we proved earlier from the verse from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, is a liberated condition of life. And when you actually have that as your goal, to serve Krishna, then this is true liberation. And there's There's natural satisfaction that comes from that. In fact, there's a verse that was written by Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur who says that when I engage in bhakti, then liberation comes and stands at my door as a maidservant saying, how can I serve you? Liberation is not the first thing on the devotee's mind. The first thing on the devotee's mind is, how can I do my service to Krishna? And the liberation's right there saying, can I help? Can I help you in any way? And Mahaprabhu says, na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam va jagadisha kamaye, mama janmani janmanishvare, bhavatad bhaktirahaitu tvai. That I don't want anything in this material world, wealth, followers, a beautiful companion. I don't want, even I'm not asking for liberation because he's saying, mama janmani janmanishvare, I just want to serve you birth after birth. So he's not asking for it. But naturally, it comes. But it's not the devotee's aim in life to become liberated. Because it's considered a kind of, although it's very exalted, and it's not that we shouldn't want to become liberated. We need some impetus to understand. But we can see from Krishna's statements and from the great acharyas and from our own realization and practice that when you are fixed in your service to your guru and to Krishna, then naturally you're liberated. It's perceivable, even in this life. Iha yasya hare dasya. Iha means now, not later, now. Iha, in this life, in this body, you can experience it. You'll see it for yourself. We're taking reflections and apparently questions also. What do we have there, Shraddha? From the electronic world.
Maharaj, there are lots of Hari Bols. People are enjoying the Facebook.
Lots of Hari Bols on.
Yeah.
That's very good.
And then Koladeep Prabhu was saying earlier.
And get a microphone while she's making this point to Satyadev. Oh, he's ready. Okay, finish Shraddha and then Satyadev will go.
Yeah, so when you were asking about should we read that verse on Achala, that the ocean verse from 2.70, so Koladeep Prabhu was saying, yeah, we should read it. So there was a vote that came for your question. Did you want dovetail, the meaning of
Who said we should read it?
Koladeep Prana.
Koladeep Prana said?
Yes.
Thank you, Koladeep Prana. We appreciate that very much.
Maharaj, I also, can I share something?
Please share. Sharing means caring.
Yes, I was also thinking about the Bhoga Tyaga and how it's prominent even in the small kids. Like they would be playing with something and the moment they see something better, they just drop it. You know, they don't even
I would
care.
say especially in small kids. I mean, within nanoseconds, they'll take one thing, throw it away.
And the moment somebody else comes and starts playing with their discarded toy, then they want it again.
Yeah. They go nuts. Satya Prabhu.
Actually, I have a question too. I just want more clarification on a statement Prabhupada made in the purport, but it's a little further up the purport if we could go a little bit higher. Let's see. That is also true of a person fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one has the material body, the demands of the body for sense gratification will continue. The devotee, however, is not disturbed by such desires because of his fullness. A Krishna conscious man is not in need of anything because the Lord fulfills all his material necessities. Therefore, he is like the ocean, always full in himself. Now, for the clarification part. Desires may come to him like the waters of the rivers that flow into the ocean, but he is steady in his activities, as you were pointing out, and he is not even slightly disturbed by the desires for sense gratification. That is the proof of a Krishna conscious man, one who has lost all inclination for material sense gratification, although desires are present. So I want to know, how is it possible that one can lose all inclination for material sense gratification and at the same time have desires present for sense gratification? Because it seems to me, if you have an inclination towards sense gratification is stimulated by the desire that one has in the mind, isn't it? So, could you clarify that?
Yeah, let's see. May come into like waters of the river flow of the ocean, he's steadying his activities even slightly.
One who has lost all inclination for material sense gratification, although desires are present. So how is it possible to lose all inclination towards sense gratification, to be in that state, but at the same time have desires for sense gratification present?
Well, inclination, if you think about the word incline, when you have an incline, things roll in a certain way. And by changing one's intention in life, one's perspective, the inclination changes. You're not inclined towards it. You don't roll that way anymore. And the desires that enter into the mind are a product of even previous contact with the material world, and they're a product of what we call prarabdha, the fully manifest karma. But there's a difference between the soul, the perceiver, and even the subtle body, which is made up of these the mind and intelligence, which then have these subtle desires in them. So the short answer is that because we're different from the body, we can observe the difference between the body and the self. And as Krishna says in the Gita, Indriyani prayanyahur indriyebhya param manaha manasastu parabhudir yo bude paratastu saha. He said you can notice the difference between yourself and the intelligence and the mind, and no matter what's going on in those entities, you can see that I'm different from them. And then he makes the statement that through intelligence you have to distinguish between yourself and those desires. In the next verse, evam buddhi param budva samstabhyatmanamatmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kamarupam darasadam. He said, use your intelligence to fight this inclination to akamakami. That's what Krishna says in this verse. The desire's there, but don't chase after them. They're there, but don't chase them. Akamakami. We're different from our body, and we can perceive that difference through consciousness that is surcharged by consciousness, purified by devotional service. One gets in knowledge and detachment. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Jana Yashavairagyam Jnanam Chayarahaitukam. By chanting Hare Krishna, for instance, one gets knowledge that I'm not my body, and also a sense of detachment. So even though the desires are present, the devotee just watches them as if they're superfluous. He or she understands, asango hyayam purusha, I have nothing to do with this. It's not me. It's another environment, it's another energy, it's another world that I have nothing to do with. I don't mix with it at all. Even though I'm right here, I don't mix with it. And one of your favorite verses in the 13th chapter of the Gita, where Krishna says, just as air, it enters into many different substances, but it essentially doesn't mix with them at all. So similarly, the soul is so subtle, although within this body, it doesn't mix with the body at all. It never touches it. And there's a way in which, through Krishna's mercy, through chanting Hare Krishna, one gets that knowledge and detachment, and then can just observe and say, those desires are pretty interesting. They have nothing to do with me. Nothing at all. Yes. Oh, yes, go ahead, please.
I just want to, encapsulate it. So
Yes.
we could say, thank you, by the way. We could say that one has lost all inclination for material sense gratification because he realizes he's not the mind of the body and he's part of Krishna and full within himself. Yet, because the material mind and body are there may be impressions about sense gratification.
So nicely put it in one sentence.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll take it. Okay, Shraddha wants to add something more to that, and then we've got Harivamsha is up next. Okay.
I just want to add a 3-letter acronym, LMI, Lingering Mental Impressions.
Yeah, we talked about this in another class, and we gave this acronym LMI, Lingering Mental Impressions, Prabhupada talks about. And I forget which purport it comes from, but Ramananda Saka, our Pandit in the booth, he's in the Pandit booth there, can look it up on the Vedabase and find lingering mental impressions. Or somebody else, anybody can. It's at your fingertips. Go ahead, Harivamsha Prabhu. He's got it.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj, for a wonderful class, and thank you, Satyadev Prabhu, for bringing out this. It actually inspires to scrutinizingly read every line. So, I want to check my understanding on this. I was connecting with another verse because, as you said, desires are there. There is a verse by Yamunacharya when he says Yadavati Mama, and then he spits at the thought like that. So 2.62, 2.63, it begins with Dhyayato. It doesn't begin with it already assumes that there will be desire. But is that Dhyayato mentioning inclination, that you start meditating on it, just like Pashyan apina pashyati. I may see certain things, but it just doesn't cross my mind. But I start meditating, so which means I have an inclination.
Well, one of the points from that verse, Jayato Vishayan Pumsam Sangasteshu Bhajayate, is that the word Dhyayato means to contemplate. And if you look carefully at the word contemplate, you find that it implies that you're looking at something with the idea there's something in it for me. But when one's hearing Sambandha Gyan regularly, which is the recommended, don't worry, he'll find it, which is recommended by Haridas Thakur as one's performing the meditation on the chanting of Hare Krishna, constantly chanting, one should also simultaneously be getting Sambandha Gyan. What is that? Continual knowledge of my relationship with Krishna and also with the material world, that you're not part of this world. It's so easy to think I'm part of this world, and then to think, oh, well, I can have that. That's mine. That could be mine. This is contemplation. I look at it and go, I could have that. And once you that crosses your mind, then you say, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsam Sangas. Then you have a Sangha. That becomes mine. I project myself into it. What was just an ordinary iPhone, I look at that one and go like, geez, I can have that iPhone. I want that iPhone. The next thing is like, I got a problem. Now, what to do? It's awkward because, just gave me your iPhone. Please keep your iPhone. And in this way I go around, although asango hyayam purusha, I have no connection in the material world, I connect through my contemplation. I contemplated and whatever was just an object, was just an iPhone. There's lots of iPhones. There's millions of them all over the universe now. And then I look and I go, that's my iPhone. And no, please, really take it back. It becomes even that was an issue, just like in that exchange, because I looked at it. We have the power to invest our consciousness in certain things, and we invest ourselves into them. So there's lots of iPhones in the room today, but one of them is my iPhone. And if that iPhone gets broken, then it's a problem for me because it's my iPhone. And there's lots of kids in the world, but if my kid gets a broken toenail or fingernail, then it's a problem for me because it's my kid. Even though there's lots of kids. If people all over the world are being killed by bombs and things like that, and unless Americans here, an American was killed by a bomb, they don't get upset because it's my. So this idea of dhyayato, there's something that I'm investing in it. I'm investing my ego in that, and I'm saying that's mine now. And then you have a sangha. then you have the connection, then it becomes an issue for you. You want to add more or take more?
Thank you so much. So it's like you're inclining, there is an inclining tendency, is that correct?
Yes, the inclination to enjoy the material world. And just think of an incline. You're inclined, so you roll that way. Whenever you see it, you roll that way. But by hearing Sambandhagan, you change the incline. Now I'm inclined towards Krishna. So then we hear Yavatinam yata yuni yunam cha yuvatao yata manobiramate tadvan manomam ramate tayi. Rupa Goswami says, just as my mind was inclined, just as the minds of young boys are inclined towards young girls and the minds of young girls are inclined to young boys. It's inclined. It's already there. It just rolls that way. So that let my mind be inclined towards you, Krishna, and let the inclination change. So when the inclination changes through purification by sadhu sangha and by hearing, knowledge and practice, then once one's inclination changes, the objects may still be there, the prarabdha karma is still running, the tapes may still run in the head, but I have no inclination towards them at all. And the fullness is described in the Bhagavatam. Bhakti parishanubhava virakti ranyata traisha trika eka kala prapadyamanasya tasnatasus tusti pushti shuddha payonugasam. And that is, when you eat a meal and you know you're full, you know when you're starving hungry and you got to eat, and it's like, get out of my way, I'm going to eat now. And you know, just like, that's your main concentration on eating. And when you're full and someone says, here, have a little more, it's like, nope, no more. I know for myself I'm full, I don't need anything else. And so Jiva Goswami points out that the fullness of bhakti, when one's actually full with the activities of serving Krishna, which is pleasurable to the senses, one no longer has inclination for these petty material desires that run through one's mind. Just, I'm full, sorry, I don't want any, even though they're there. So the food may be there, but I'm not inclined towards it. Any other reflections? Yes? Oh, anyone can see that an illusion often continues by the momentum of lingering mental impressions, even when its basis is no longer present. Smoking gun. Anyone can see that an illusion often continues by the momentum of lingering mental impressions, even when its basis is no longer present. Let's start from the beginning. This is too nice to skip. Can you go back to the top, wherever we are? Wonder where we are. Where's that from? We're going to find out. Let's see. This is from 1087:36. Let's read the verse of purport. And the reason we're going to read the verse in purport is because we can. Let's just read the translation first. It may be proposed that this world is permanently real because it is generated from the permanent reality, but such an argument is subject to logical refutation. Sometimes, indeed, the apparent non-difference of a cause and its effect fails to prove true, and at other times the product of something real is illusory. Furthermore, this world cannot be permanently real, for it partakes of the natures of not only the absolute reality, but also the illusion disguising that reality. Actually, the visible forms of this world are just an imaginary arrangement resorted to by a succession of ignorant persons in order to facilitate their material affairs. With their various meanings and implications, the learned words of your Vedas bewilder all persons whose minds have been dulled by hearing the incantations of sacrificial rituals. This is from Bhagavatam 1087:36, which is personified Vedas. Purport: according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the Upanishads teach that this created world is real but temporary. This is the understanding that devotees of Lord Vishnu adhere to. But there are also materialistic philosophers like the proponents of Jaimini Rishi's Karma Mimamsa, who claim that this world is the only reality and exists eternally. For Jaimini, the cycle of karmic action and reaction exists eternally. For Jaimini, the cycle of karmic action and reaction is perpetual, with no possibility of liberation into a different transcendental realm. This viewpoint, however, is shown to be fallacious by a careful examination of the Upanishadic mantras, which contain many descriptions of a higher spiritual existence. For example, Sad eva samyedam agra asid ekam eva dvitiyam. My dear boy, the absolute truth alone existed prior to this creation, one without a second. From Chandogya Upanishad. Also, Vijnanam Anandam Brahma. The supreme reality is divine knowledge and bliss. Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad. In this prayer of the personified Vedas, the materialistic argument is summed up in the words Sata idam utitam sat. The visible world is permanently real because it is generated from the permanent reality. In general, this argument goes, that which is produced from a certain thing is composed of that thing. For example, earrings and other ornaments made from gold share gold substance. Thus, the Mimamsa logicians conclude, since the world as we know it is a manifestation of an eternal reality, is also eternally real. But the Sanskrit ablative expression, sataha, from the eternal reality implies a definite separation of cause and effect. Therefore, what is created from sat, the permanent reality, must be significantly different from it, in other words, temporary. In this way, the argument of the materialists is flawed because it proves just the opposite of what it is intended to prove, tarka hatam, namely that the world as we know it is all that exists, that it is eternal, and that there is no separate transcendental reality. In defense, the Mimamsakas may claim that they are not trying to prove different. In defense, the Mimamsakas may claim that they are not trying to prove non-difference per se, but rather trying to disprove the possibility of difference, or in other words, the possibility of any reality separate from the known world. This attempt to support the Mimamsa argument is easily refuted by the phrase vyabhicharati kva cha. That is to say that there are counter-examples that deviate from the general rule. Sometimes, indeed, the source is very different from what it produces, as in the case of a man and his young son, or of a hammer and the destruction of a clay pot. But, the Mimamsakas reply, the creation of the universe is not the same kind of causation as your counter-examples. The father and the hammer are only efficient causes, whereas the sat is also this universe's ingredient cause. This reply is anticipated by the words kva cha mrsha, and sometimes the effect is illusory. In the case of the false perception of a snake where there is a rope on the ground, the rope is the snake illusion's ingredient cause, differing in many respects from the imagined snake, most obviously in its being real. The Mimamsakas once more rejoin, but the ingredient cause of the illusory snake is not just the rope by itself. It is the rope plus the observer's ignorance, avidya. Since avidya is not a substance, the snake it produces is called an illusion. Yet the same is true, the personified Vedas reply, in the case of the universe's creation from sat in conjunction with ignorance, tato bhaya yuk. Here, the unreal element of illusion, maya, is the living being's misconception that their own bodies and other changing material forms are permanent. But, rejoin the Mimamsakas, our experience in this world is valid because the things we experience are useful for practical activity. If our experience were not valid, we could never be sure that our perceptions corresponded to the facts. We would be like a man who, despite exhaustive examination, would still have to suspect that a rope might be a snake. No, the Shrutis here answer, the temporary configurations of matter are nonetheless an illusory imitation of the eternal spiritual reality cleverly concocted to fulfill the conditioned living entity's desire for material activity. Vyavahritaye vikalpa ishitaha. The illusion of this world's permanence is sustained by a succession of blind men who learn the materialistic idea from their predecessors and pass on this illusion to their descendants. Anyone can see that an illusion often continues by the momentum of lingering mental impressions, even when its basis is no longer present. Thus, throughout history, blind philosophers have misled other blind men by convincing them of the absurd idea that they can reach perfection by engaging in mundane rituals. Foolish people may be willing to exchange counterfeit coins among one another, but a wise man knows that such money is useless for the practical buying of food, medicine, and other necessities, and if given in charity, counterfeit money will earn no pious credit. But say the Mimamsakas, how can the sincere performer of Vedic rituals be a deluded fool, since the Samhitas and Brahmanas of the Vedic scriptures establish that the fruits of karma are eternal? For example, Akshayan ha vai chaturmasya yajnai sukritam bhavati. For one who observes the chaturmasya vows, there arises inexhaustible good karma. And apama somam amrita babhuma. We have drunk the soma and become immortal. Rig Veda. The Shrutis reply by pointing out that the personality of Godhead's learned words comprising the Vedas bewilder those whose weak intelligence has been crushed by the weight of too much faith in karma. The specific word used here is uru vrittibihi, which indicates that the Vedic mantras, with their confusing variety of meanings in the semantic modes of gauna, lakshana, and so on, protect their sublime mysteries from all but those who have faith in Lord Vishnu. The Vedas do not truly mean to say in their injunctions that the fruits of karma are eternal, but only indirectly describe the metaphors, the praiseworthiness of regulated sacrifices. The Chandogya Upanishad states in no uncertain terms that the results of ritual karma are impermanent. Tad yateha karma chito loka shiyate evam evamurta punya chito loka shiyate. Just as whatever benefit one works hard to attain in this world is eventually depleted, so whatever life one earns for oneself in the next world by his piety will also eventually end. Chandogya Upanishad. According to the testimony of numerous Shruti mantras, the entire material world is but a temporary emanation of the supreme truth. The Mundaka Upanishad, for one, says, Yatorana na bi srijate granaticha yata pravitvam ashodvaya sambhavanti yata sata purushat sheya lomani tata sharat sambhavatiha vishvam. As a web is expanded and withdrawn by a spider, as plants grow from the earth, and as hair grows from a living person's head and body, so this universe is generated from the inexhaustible Supreme. Mundaka Upanishad. Srila Sridhar Swami prays, Udbhutam bhavatasato pi bhuvanam sannaiva sarpas rajaha kuryat karyam api hakuta kanakam vedo pi naivam paraha advaitam tavasat param tu Paramanandam padam tad muda Vande sundaram indira nuta hare ma munchamam anatam. Although this world has arisen from you, who are the very substance of reality, it is not eternally real. The illusory snake appearing from a rope is not permanent reality, nor are the transformations produced from gold. The Vedas never say that they are. The actual transcendental non-dual reality is your supremely blissful personal kingdom. To that beautiful abode I offer my obeisances. O Lord Hari, to whom goddess Indira always bows down. I also bow to you. Therefore, please never release me. Haribo. All facts are not true. And this is brought up by Krishna in the Bhagavatam to Brahma when he says, Ritertam yat pratyeta na pratyeta chatmani tadvidyad atmano mayam yatapaso yatatamaha. Whatever you observe in this world that appears to be separate from me is illusory energy, illusory potency, because of missing the connection between Krishna and the factual things of this world. One actually misses their relevance, and therefore they are considered to be Maya or illusion. That was just not. So the simple act of connecting everything to Krishna by sambandha gyan, hearing about our relationship with Krishna and about our relationship with the material world and about Krishna's ownership of everything in the world and how he owns and controls everything. As an example, Isavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita magridha kasisudhanam. All problems solved in this verse. That the personality of Godhead is the owner and controller of everything in the universe. Everything animate or inanimate within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things knowing well to whom they belong. In any case, we got a chance to read the whole purport because we were talking about the lingering mental impressions that stay even as one takes up the process of Krishna consciousness. Yes?
I have a comment and a question. The comment was, it was really very inspiring to read this purport. It appeared like how Hirdananda Goswami Maharaj, Gopi Parandhan Prabhu and Dravida Prabhu worked like 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, because just so that people don't argue, it is personified Vedas prayers they're bringing from all different Upanishads in the mood of Srila Prabhupada. And that was very inspiring. Thank you. My question was, often in life we have very positive spiritual experiences thanks to Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON. Maybe when we go to Yatra or there is a festival in Sankirtan, when we interact with our people who inspire us, and at that time it is very strong, and it appears that the LMIs have either dissolved or they have reduced in their intensity. But then when we go through the ups and downs, mostly downs, then we tend to forget those impressions of spiritual experience. Those don't come to us that positively at that time. So my question was, is the mood of participating in that spiritual experiences of pride, that when those experiences come, instead of absorbing as servants or being humble, we enjoy it in, on the material level, because we tend to forget. So what should be a mood?
Well, we tend to forget because that's our general tendency. And this, when Krishna tells Arjuna, I've known many, I've spoke this to the sun god. Prabhupada distinguishes the living entity tends to forget one life after another. So the tendency is there because we're tiny and ensconced in the material energy to forget. However, those impressions you're talking about, for instance, you mentioned going on yatra, and there you may have a powerful experience of being in the Dham. And although I may come back to Silicon Valley and in the heat of my work and everything else, those things may seem eclipsed for some time, but they're not. They, just like all the other impressions I take in the world, linger, but those spiritual impressions, they stay also. And therefore, one of the aspects of the bhakti process is that as we are practicing what we call ajata ruchi, Raganuga sadhana bhakti, means that we're practicing Raganuga bhakti before we have a taste for it, before we even know what it is practically. We know what it is, we're hearing about it, but we may not have fully realized the import of these impressions that we're getting as we're worshipping the deity, as we're going to the Dham, as we're associating with the Vaishnavas. But nonetheless, we do take those impressions in. And as we accumulate them throughout a lifetime, why it's recommended that one should practice regularly, then the preponderance of impressions tips the other way towards thinking of Krishna, the impressions we have from our association with the devotees and from the Dham and so forth. However, just to answer your question more completely, it does make a difference, the mood in which we practice our devotional service. For instance, in chanting, the mood of the chanter is extremely important. The attitude in which we approach anything in devotional service is very important. Even from a previous life, the impressions we have from association with devotees remains, and we have a predilection even as we come into this world for certain kinds of things. And Krishna mentions this about Purva Samskar when he speaks to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, and Arjuna was wondering what happens if I'm not successful. And Krishna says, don't worry, in your next life, the ways in which you practiced in this life will become apparent to you. In the next life, they'll come and visit you even without your trying. They simply will flood your mental system, and you'll suddenly feel inclined towards continuing your practice, taking up where you left off before. So they never go in vain. Swalpamapya siddharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. So one of the practical ways that one can stay constantly in contact with Krishna is by repeating his holy names. In the teachings given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there is a very important verse from his Shikshashtakam, in which he says, Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis, that all of Krishna's personal energies are in his holy name. There's no difference between the name of Krishna and Krishna himself. And there are other statements to corroborate this throughout the Shastra. Nama Chintamani Krishnas Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shudho Nitya Mukto Binadvam Nama Namino. The Shastra says that Krishna's name is a philosopher's stone. It transforms whatever it touches. And it is completely pure. Purna Shudham Nitya Mukto, it's complete in itself, unlike other things in this world that I may yearn for or meditate upon. And it is eternally liberated. It's beyond the three modes of material nature, the conditional world. And it's completely the same as Krishna. There's no difference between Krishna and his name. Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. And it has taste. There's taste there within the holy name. One can actually experience the sweetness that one is looking for. And oftentimes it seems as if it's very difficult to change one's course of life. Habits, for instance, are very difficult to overcome. One's nature is difficult to overcome. But the verse that I just mentioned says that the name is transformational. As I stay close to the name of Krishna, so I transform myself. I purify the senses, I purify my mind and intelligence, and I am elevated to the spiritual platform by constant association with Krishna's name. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not try to establish many temples. He didn't emphasize anything beyond this simple process, which was given to him by his spiritual master, who gave him a verse from the scriptures, which is Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nasteva 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 Gatiranyata. For emphasis, it's said 3 times in this verse that in the age of Kali Yuga, there's no other way, there's no other way, there's no other way. And then he gives the positive, then chanting the holy names, very clearly pointed out that this method will be effective in Kali Yuga. And in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Karabhajana Muni says that those who know the essence of life understand that Kali Yuga is actually a beneficial time, because during this age, one can fulfill all of one's spiritual desires simply by this process of Sankirtan. Sarva Swarto Bilabhyate, he says, all of your desires, your ultimate objective of life is fulfilled just by this one activity, and that is repeating the names of the Lord. And this particular mantra is given in the Kali Santarana Upanishad. It's 32 syllables, 16 names, 32 syllables. Each one has 2 syllables, obviously. And then it goes, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And Prabhupada translated the meaning as, O my Lord, O energy of the Lord, please engage me in your service. There have been other statements by great acharyas talking about the various names of Hare, Krishna, and Rama. But the fact is that these names come from the spiritual world, as given by Narottam Das Thakur, Golokera Prema Dhan, Harinam Sankirtan. Especially when one chants the holy names in the association of others, we say Sankirtan. It means there's an emphasis on a group activity, that everyone comes together and sings the mantra. Then there's special power in that. And even more so when the mantra is taken out into public, so that others can hear the mantra and they get the effect of hearing Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In Japan, we have a friend, Abhaycharan Das, who's a disciple of Satyadev Prabhu, who was many, many years ago walking by a Harinam Sankirtan party. And he heard the chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. What did he hear?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
It was at Harajuku, wasn't it? Harajuku is a wild place. 1980 at Harajuku. Harajuku is a place where a lot of young people come to show off their various idiosyncrasies. Normally in Japanese life, there's there's a lot of conformity. For instance, you'll see at rush hour when people are coming back from work, everyone wears basically the same color suit and tie and shoes, same kind of everything. But then in Harajuku, they let it all loose, and they wear the most outrageous kind of costumes, kind of a social release. And the devotees used to go there regularly and chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And when this Abhaycharan Prabhu, who back then it was named Horisan, walked by, he heard the mantra, he got on the train, he went many miles on the train, but he couldn't get the mantra out of his head. He kept hearing the Hare Krishna mantra in his head, so he got off at one stop, got on another train, and went all the way back to Harajuku to find out what happened to him and how this mantra got into his head. And he began following the devotees from that day, and he became a real devotee of this chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. It is the greatest treasure that we have, the chanting of the Mahamantra. In fact, it was known that Sanatana Goswami was keeping a touchstone, and one man who heard about it, came to receive this, and he found out that Sanatana Goswami was keeping it in a garbage heap nearby. And Sanatana handed over the stone to the man who asked for it, and when he went away, the man thought, if he's keeping this in the garbage, then he must have something more valuable. So he went back, and he asked Sanatana Goswami, why are you keeping this in the garbage? This is a valuable thing, more valuable than even an Apple Watch. And Sanatana Goswami then said, well, if you really want to know, I can teach you, but first you throw that thing away. It was a philosopher's stone. Anything you touch with it would turn into gold. It was the emblem of all material wealth. Imagine getting a hold of that. The man had been searching for a long time, doing austerities, praying if he could get in that position, if he could just have this one thing, a philosopher's stone. You'd be richer than maybe, I don't know, Mr. Trump or something. Of course, no one knows how rich he is, but he could be so rich, and you have a little airplane you can fly around in and everything. And so Sanatana Goswami says, first throw it away, and then I will teach you what's most valuable. I'll give you what's most valuable. So the man, I saw this when I was in the UK, United Kingdom, and the devotees went out on a boat we were celebrating something, I can't remember what it was, but they had a big program on this boat, and they did a play about the Sanatana Goswami and this Touchstone. And so in the play, on the boat, when the man was asked to throw away the stone, he tried so many times. He'd run to the edge and throw it, and then he'd hold on. Practically fell off the boat. He was so attached to this, and finally, after, it was comical, but also was something very relatable. Like, throw away the stone, and what do I get in return? And somehow or other, he was able to finally let go of the stone, and everyone cheered as it went plunging into the water. And so similarly, Sanatana told this man, you throw this jewel into the Jamuna, and at that time the Jamuna was really deep and wide. Once something went in, you couldn't find it. Nowadays you could probably find it after you threw it in. So he threw it in, and then Sanatana said, sit down and I will give you the most valuable thing. More valuable than a touchstone. That means everything in this world that we consider valuable, it doesn't compare. It's not even close to the valuable thing that Sanatana then gave him. And that was, he taught him this chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And so we have that available, and it's easy to miss because the mind has a way of gravitating towards all the things of this world that it thinks will make it happy. But actually, the only real thing that will satisfy the mind is spiritual, and it's Krishna. And as Krishna says, think of me always. The primary means of thinking of Krishna is to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Doesn't mean you have to quit your work, but it means you have to enunciate the mantra. Enunciate. It means you have to keep the mantra going through the different phases of your day and life. Here, in the 8th chapter, 7th verse, here's what Krishna says to Arjuna. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhyacha mayarapitamano buddhir mami vaishyasya samshayaha. Translation, therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting With all your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. And here's Prabhupada's purport. This instruction to Arjuna is very important for all men engaged in material activities. The Lord does not say that one should give up his prescribed duties or engagements. One can continue them and at the same time think of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna. This will free one from material contamination and engage the mind and intelligence in Krishna. By chanting Krishna's names, one would be transferred to the supreme planet, Krishna Loka, without a doubt. What things did you notice about that purport that particularly stood out to you? That we can take away. Let's take away 3 things from this purport that are foundational to our practical application of Krishna consciousness. Okay, Kameshwari once, Sukheshwari 2, and Dheeraj was number 3. Ty goes the runner will take 3.5. Okay, go ahead. What lesson are we taking away?
Hare Krishna. The thing that stuck to my mind is think of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna.
Think of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna. Very good. In the Bhagavatam, Sudha Goswami says, Apana samstritim goran yanama vivishogrinan tata sadya vimucheta yabhibheti swayambayam. He says, Krishna and his name are non-different. The fear personified is afraid of the holy name. And therefore, one should always call out the holy name. Let's see that verse. Not that we digress too much, but I want to see it. Apana samstritim goran. Could you go to the first chapter of the Bhagavatam, please? I think it's verse number 10. You're going to like this. 14. Huh? Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam 1:14. Here it is. This is the verse. Are you ready? Shall we say it together? Yes. This will be powerful to take home with us. Apanaha samsritim koran yannama vivashogranan tatak sadyo vimucheta yadbibheti swayampayam. Translation. Living beings who are entangled in the complicated meshes of birth and death can be freed immediately even unconsciously chanting the holy name of Krishna, which is feared by fear personified. Purport, Vasudeva or Lord Krishna, the absolute personality of Godhead, is the supreme controller of everything. What does he control? That's a lot. There is no one in creation who is not afraid of the rage of the Almighty. Great asuras like Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, Kamsa, and others who were very powerful living entities were all killed by the personality of Godhead. And the Almighty Vasudeva has empowered his name with the powers of his personal self. Everything is related to him and everything has its identity in him. It is stated herein that the name of Krishna is feared even by fear personified. This indicates that the name of Krishna is non-different from Krishna. Therefore, the name of Krishna is as powerful as Lord Krishna himself. Let's read that together. Therefore, the name of Krishna is as powerful as the Lord himself. There's no difference at all. Anyone, therefore, can take advantage of the holy names of Lord Sri Krishna, even in the midst of the greatest dangers. The transcendental name of Krishna, even though uttered unconsciously or by force of circumstances, can help one obtain freedom from the hurdle of birth and death. That's quite a hurdle, birth and death. The hurdle of birth and death can free one from that. So we took away from, you took one lesson away, which was? Think of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna. That's a valid principle she gave us we can take away. So now we can continue to chant Hare Krishna in all circumstances. Wherever you go, keep the mantra going. How does the mantra go?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
And how can you keep it going all the time? By what? Chanting. You can use your tongue and lips. You can keep it going in your head too. can't you? Keep the mantra going. Who can stop you from chanting Hare Krishna? Yourself. You have permission to constantly think of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna. This is one of the great principles. Thank you very much, Kameshwari. Now, Sukeshwari. We're going to the Aishwari sisters.
Very nice class, Prabhuji. I was thinking about the verse Tattenukampam Susumikshamano. Well, in the same thing, that if a person is able to use their mind, I'm trying to remember, it's 4th canto, 6th chapter, 45th verse, I think. We had that for our Bhakti Vaiva exam, that's why I remember it. But I was just thinking that, how when a person goes through all the suffering, in Krishna's names and doing devotional service, then at the end of his life he will have a rightful claim to be going back to home, back to God.
Okay, so in all the different situations we're in this life, some of them may be happy, some of them may be distressful, painful. You're suggesting that we continue the chanting of Hare Krishna.
Yeah, because I think that the purport that we just read, the one that just came up earlier. Where
he'll put it back up. Ramananda, can we have that purport back, please? Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yujacha. From the Bhagavad Gita 8th chapter we were on. Before I digressed. What was it? 8.7. Okay, your principle is give it in one short sentence.
I was just looking at the thing. He said one can continue them at the same time think Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna. This will free one from the material contamination and engage the mind and intelligence in Krishna. So I was just trying to remember the two. So you just have to chant.
So you can remember that this is the means by which one inherits the kingdom of God. To go on throughout the different sufferings of life and continue to chant Hare Krishna. Don't give up. Right?
Yes.
Very nice.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Very good. Okay, now we're over to Dhiraj.
Formula for reaching the supreme destination, Krishna Lok, is given in the last sentence of the purport. That is by chanting Krishna's names.
Very nice. And then you'll be transferred to the supreme planet Krishna Loka without a doubt. There's no doubt. Very good. So we have 3 principles. And here we go for a bonus.
At the same point, but I like the point without a doubt.
Without a doubt. Why did you like that? You like guarantees, right? Guaranteed?
Yes.
Okay, now we should feel very wealthy because we have we've been given the holy name, which is more valuable than any touchstone that can merely transform material objects into gold. And anyone can take it up and continue to chant the holy name of the Lord. And a few points are that while chanting, there's 3 P's that are very important. Pronunciation. If you concentrate on how you're saying the mantra, because it's easy to become unconscious and just say something that you think is the mantra, but it's something else. That can happen over time if you become unconscious or sloppy. You can say some other kinds of words. So enunciate, use your lips. And then the next thing is to try to, if you're sitting, sit up a little straight when you chant the mantra, because your body language tells your brain that you're serious or you're not into it. And if you sit up a little bit straight, then immediately your intelligence and mind say, okay, this is something more serious. So try that. And then the other thing is to pray. And if you start off with a sankalpa, means before you start chanting, for instance, if you're going to measure your chanting and you chant on beads every day, you begin with a prayer to the Supreme Godhead, to the holy name, and you can ask things, for instance, like, my dear holy name, dear Lord Krishna, please give me the best association in the world. And please give me the intelligence and the wherewithal to take advantage of it. Because we can grow. And you can ask the holy name, especially for these spiritual advantages in life. And then when you chant, really lean into it, lean into the prayer and express it from your heart like this. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And by this regular and then by practice, constant chanting of the holy names of the Lord, one will see for him or herself the association of Krishna. One will see directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and one becomes cured of the disease that prevents us from actually tasting the sweetness of the holy name by taking this medicine regularly. So the takeaway from this class is to constantly chant Hare Krishna, to remember Krishna, just remember his holy names because he's always there and available. Thank you very much. Go Premanande Haribo. Thank you to everyone for joining us online today, in whatever medium you joined us. Thanks to Satyadev and Mahaguna Prabhu for joining us today here at ISKCON Silicon Valley.
Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, hey, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman.